In the first age of Arda, as the LOTR elves spread throughout Beleriand, they waged war against the Dark Lord Morgoth. After his defeat at Dagor Aglareb, Morgoth retreated to the fortress of Angband. Yet the forces of the Elven Lords lacked the strength to assault his stronghold directly and end the threat entirely, and so they focused on containing his evil while they settled their people. Under High King Fingolfin, the lands of Dorthonion came to be ruled by his nephews, the sons of Finarfin, Angrod and Agnor, while the northeastern realm of Ladros was held by their human allies in the House of Beor, one of the three tribes of the Edain, who journeyed west over the Blue Mountains and now made their home in Beleriand. For 400 years, there was relative peace as the Dark Lord Morgoth was held off at the siege of Angband. But after centuries of waiting, Morgoth at last unleashed his power upon them, bursting forth from the walls of his fortress with rivers of flame, burning the elven armies and surrounding lands. He then unleashed his monstrous armies upon Beleriand in the Dagor Bragolach, which saw the Dark Lord conquer much of the north, including the lands of Dorthonion, killing Angrod and Agnor. The Lord of Ladros, Bregolas, was also killed in the fighting, but his younger brother Barahir survived, even leading a small group of his bravest men near the fen of Serech, saving the life of the Elven Lord Finrod, who swore an oath of friendship to the House of Beor, giving Barahir the Ring of Felagond as a symbol of this vow. Although the lands of Ladros were soon lost as well, Barahir refused to leave the land uncontested, and so sent his wife to lead the women and children away, while the warriors remained to defend their homes. Barahir and his people fought valiantly, but in the end only the chieftain remained, along with 12 companions, including his son and heir Beren. Yet still their resolve did not waver, and they lived as outlaws in the wilderness, attacking Morgoth's forces whenever possible. Then one day, as one of their companions, later known as Gorlim the Unhappy, was off on a hunt near to where he once lived, he suddenly saw his wife moving about their old home, alive and well. Having thought her dead, he rushed out from his place of hiding and ran to her, only to be apprehended by the forces of the Maiar Sauron, lieutenant of Morgoth. Gorlim, beset with grief and longing, made a deal with Sauron, betraying the location of his companions in exchange for being reunited with his wife. As a result, Barahir and his people were slaughtered at Tarn Eluin, killing all except Beren, who was off running an errand for the group at the time of the massacre. Sauron then revealed to Gorlim that the woman he'd seen was a specter and that his wife was long dead. He then put Gorlim to death, thereby keeping his word of reuniting the couple. With his father and companions gone, Beren lived alone in the wilderness for a time, becoming a friend to the animals of the forest. He ate no meat and killed nothing save for the followers of Morgoth he encountered. Yet as the bounty on his head increased, life in the north became more difficult, and so he made his way south into Doriath, and there, traveling through the forests, encountered an elven maiden so beautiful he fell in love upon first glance. For he had laid eyes upon Lúthien Tinuviel as she danced and sang, daughter of King Thingol of Doriath and Queen Melian the Maya. This princess of the hidden kingdom of the Sindar elves was often claimed to be the most beautiful maiden to ever exist. With a voice so beautiful snows melted when she sang, and an aura so pure spring followed her as she walked. Lúthien, entranced by this stranger, allowed him to come close and felt herself in love, but then suddenly ran off, frightened by her unexpected feelings, causing Beren to collapse and sink into a void of despair. Yet soon she returned to once again look upon the man who'd touched her heart, and while they seemed so unlikely a match, Beren and Lúthien fell madly in love, with the princess often journeying into the forest to meet with him in secret. But Beren was not the only one pining for the affections of the daughter of Thingol, for there was also Daeron the minstrel, who often played his flute for Lúthien as she danced in the forest. Daeron was so determined to be with her, he began to spy upon her movements, discovering her secret meetings with the human and reporting her activities to the king. Summoned before Thingol and Melian, Beren was so struck by the grandeur and splendor of the elven halls and their lords he could not speak, but after a moment found his courage and spoke with pride as a chieftain of the House of Beor. He told the king and court of his family lineage and presented them the Ring of Felagond, demonstrating the friendship his father had earned from a prince of the LOTR elves. And while this impressed many, Thingol was offended by the idea that his precious Lúthien would marry a human, and therefore devised an impossible task that he demanded as bride price for the hand of his daughter. Before all, the king decreed that Beren must retrieve a Silmaril jewel from the Iron Crown of Morgoth and return it to Doriath in order to be deemed worthy of marriage to Lúthien. Although this was clearly meant as a death sentence for the man, Beren accepted the price and said farewell, vowing to return with the jewel in his hand. Melian, queen of Doriath, and Maiar of Valinor spoke little during the meeting, but afterwards warned her husband that involving himself and the kingdom with the Silmarils would bring doom upon them all, for the sons of Feanor had long ago vowed to retrieve the Silmarils at any cost and would never allow King Thingol to take possession of one of the jewels. Yet events were now in motion that could not be stopped, with Beren traveling west to Nargothrond and meeting with the now High King Finrod Felagund, who recognized him at once and did not need the ring for verification. Finrod, bound by the oath he gave to Barahir, agreed to help Beren in his mission to retrieve the Silmaril, but in doing so caused great uproar and dissension within his realm, for the sons of Feanor were highly influential and powerful Noldor, with many friends and allies that would follow them into rebellion should they turn against the High King. And so when Finrod announced his plans to travel with Beren, Celegorm and Curufin openly objected, convincing the realm not to wage war against Morgoth for such a cause. Finrod, seeing his own people turn against him, removed his crown, unwilling to break the oath made to the House of Beor, and left the realm with Beren and a small group of loyal companions, fully aware that by leaving his crown behind, he risked losing his kingdom to the sons of Feanor. On the way to Angband, they encountered a party of orcs and slew them, taking their weapons and armor. Then Finrod used his magic to change their appearance, so they might look like orcs for the rest of their journey. However, Sauron became alerted to their presence when he noticed a party of orcs moving about the lands without reporting their activities, as was the duty of all servants of Morgoth. And so he came upon them, only to be confronted by Finrod, who engaged the Dark Lord in a wondrous battle, each using their magic to sing songs of power, clashing in a piercing and treacherous sway of lethal force. And while Finrod was strong and determined, he could not match the power of Sauron, and was defeated and captured along with Beren and their companions. They were then thrown into a dungeon of darkness, where the only things they sometimes saw were the glowing eyes of a werewolf coming to devour one of the prisoners. Sauron believed this would encourage them to reveal their purpose for traveling into these lands, but none of the companions betrayed their king. When only Finrod and Beren were left, the werewolf again came, but Finrod summoned the last of his strength and burst forth, breaking his chains and slaying the beast with his hands and teeth, suffering fatal wounds in the struggle. Having fulfilled his oath to the House of Beor, Finrod said goodbye to his friend Beren with his final words, aware that they would likely never see each other again, for the fate of elves and men differed, and while Finrod would be reborn someday, humans were destined to leave the world. And so died the High King of the Noldor, leaving Beren in horrible grief, alone in the darkness. A special thanks to all those who contribute to CivilizationEx, like Sami the Fair Budhaig, Arhael the Silent Blade, and Sir Daeron of House Ashford. If you would like to help CivilizationEx, click on the Patreon link, and please be sure to like and subscribe, and click on the links to see more.